Welcome back to Legacy Lines Podcast. I'm your host, Jay. Every week, we walk past 1,000 stories. We pass people on the street, we drive over bridges, and we cross railroad tracks without ever thinking about the history etched into the steel. We assume our paths are safe. We assume that as long as we follow the rules, the world will follow them back. But sometimes the world doesn't play fair. Sometimes a path you've walked 100 times becomes the site of a nightmare you never saw coming. Today, we're talking about a story that gripped the heart of Middle America in the late 1990s. It's a story about a ghost who moved across state lines on the back of freight trains. It's a story about a man who thought he was invisible because he lived in the shadows of the rail yard. But more importantly, it's the story of a woman named Holly Dunn. On a warm August night in Kentucky, Holly's life intersected with a monster. Most people who met this man didn't live to tell the tale. They became statistics. In fact, they became cold cases. But Holly became a witness. She became the glitch in a serial killer's system. This is a story with a slow-burning fuse, a twist that shifted the course of American criminal history, and a legacy that proves that even when you're left for dead in a ditch, your story isn't over until you say it's over. So, lean in. Let's look at the lines left behind on the tracks. It was August 29th, 1997, Lexington, Kentucky. Holly Dunn was a 20-year-old junior at the University of Kentucky. If you've ever been a college student, you know that feeling of invincibility. You're young, you're studying, you're hanging out with friends. The future feels like a wide open map. Holly was walking with her boyfriend, Chris Mayer. They had been at a party and they decided to take a walk. It was one of those humid, quiet Kentucky nights where the air feels thick. They ended up near some railroad tracks, a common shortcut for students in that area. They weren't doing anything wrong. They were just two kids in love, talking about their lives, walking along the steel rails. Out of the darkness, a man appeared. He didn't look like a threat at first. He looked like a drifter, someone who had seen hard times. He asked them for money. When they didn't have any, the energy changed. It shifted from a request to an attack. The man produced a 5-pound rock. He tied them up. He was calm, which is the part that always haunts me when I read the files. He wasn't panicked. He was methodical, which is very odd. He attacked Chris first, and I won't go into the brutal details out of respect for Chris's legacy, but I will tell you this. Chris fought to protect Holly until his very last breath, and that's for sure. He was a hero in the truest sense of the word. Then the man turns his attention to Holly. For the next several hours, Holly endured things no human being should ever have to face. She was beaten, she was tortured, and she was left for dead. The man hit her so hard with the rock that her jaw was shattered and her skull was fractured. He threw her into the ditch and disappeared into the night. He thought he was done, and he had thought that he ended 2 lives that night. and he thought he was just moving on to the next stop. But little did he know Holly was still breathing. Through sheer, raw will, she crawled out of that ditch. She couldn't see out of one eye. She couldn't speak because of her shattered jaw, but she followed a light in the distance. She crawled to a house, pounded on the door with her remaining strength, and waited for help. The legacy line started right there. Not with the attack, but with the crawl. To understand why this case went cold for 2 years, we have to look at the man in the shadows. Angel Martirino Resendez wasn't your typical serial killer. He didn't have a kill room. He didn't have a fancy car. He didn't even have a permanent address. He was what criminologists call an itinerant killer. Essentially, just a roaming killer, state to state. Just wherever he went, that's where he killed. He lived on the rails. Now, if you've ever lived in a town with a major railroad, like some of the areas I've worked in near St. Louis, you know that the tracks are a world unto themselves. Thousands of miles of steel connecting the country, often passing through the backyards of unsuspecting families. Resendez knew the schedules. He knew which cars were empty. So he could hop on a train in El Paso and be in Chicago in 2 days without ever showing an ID or a face to a camera. In 1997, the Lexington police were looking for a local. They were looking for someone who lived in the neighborhood. They didn't realize their suspect was already 5 states away, huddled in a boxcar, listening to the rhythm of the wheels on the track. This is the slow burn here. While Holly was undergoing surgery to wire her jaw shut, while she was learning how to look in the mirror again, the man who did it to her was becoming a legend in the FBI's behavioral science unit. But they didn't have a name for him yet. They just had bodies. Now, I want to take a step out of the true crime lane to talk to you from my heart for a moment. In my work, I see a lot of people who have survived things they weren't supposed to survive, and that's in air quotes, supposed to survive. To me, there's a specific kind of trauma that comes with being the sole survivor. It's called survivor's remorse or survivor's guilt. And it's heavy. It's a really heavy, suffocating blanket. And Holly didn't just have to heal her bones. She had to heal the question of why me? Why did Chris die and I live? That's a tough one. Trust me. It's a really tough one. When you are the only one, the world looks at you like a miracle. But believe you me, inside you often feel like a mistake. You feel like you're carrying the weight of the person who didn't make it. So, it's a tough one. But for 2 years, Holly carried Chris's memory and her own pain in total silence. There was no Holly's house yet. There was no national moment or national movement for survivors' rights. She was a 20-year-old girl in Kentucky trying to finish her degree while knowing a ghost was walking the earth. This is the part of the legacy we don't talk about enough. The waiting, the rebuilding, when you don't even have the blueprints yet. All this time while Holly was rebuilding, that ghost was getting bolder. In late 98, the killings started again, but this time they were concentrated in Texas. A 64-year-old woman was killed in her home by the name of Leafy Mason, just 100 yards from the tracks. A brilliant pediatric neurologist was killed in her home near the tracks named Dr. Claudia Benton. The FBI started to realize this wasn't random. There was a predator using the infrastructure of the country against us. That's when they termed him the railroad killer. But there was a problem. They had his DNA from the Texas crime scenes, and they knew it was the same man, but when they ran the DNA through the national system, they got nothing. He wasn't in there. The man had been deported from the U.S. multiple times under different aliases. But back then, the fingerprint systems and the DNA systems didn't talk to each other the way they do now. The FBI was chasing a shadow. They had no idea that the answer to their mystery was literally sitting in a file cabinet in Lexington, Kentucky. In June 1999, the railroad killer has just claimed 4 more victims in a single week. The country is terrified, and an FBI task force is finally formed. They start doing something that seems simple, but was revolutionary at that time. They start searching for survivors of blunt force trauma near railroads across the entire United States. They eventually find the file from August 1997, and the detectives in Kentucky send the DNA over to the lab in Texas, and they wait. Guess what? It's a match. The DNA from the man who attacked Holly and killed Chris in 97 is the exact same DNA from the man who killed Dr. Benton in 98, Leafy Mason in 99, and this is the twist that shifted the gears of the entire investigation. Suddenly, this wasn't just a Texas problem. This was a national manhunt. And for the first time in 2 years, the FBI had something more valuable than DNA. They had a living, breathing witness who had spent hours with the serial killer. They flew Holly in, and they didn't tell her much. They didn't want to contaminate her memory. They just sat her down with a book of photos, thousands of faces. Holly said later that she felt a physical reaction before she even consciously realized who she was looking at. Her heart started racing. Her hands started shaking. She pointed to the photo of Angel Martirino Resendez. That's him, she said. I'll never forget those eyes. Now, with the name and the face, the power dynamic shifted. Resendez was no longer a ghost. He was now a fugitive. His face was on the cover of every newspaper. And it was also on the 6 o'clock news in every city. He could no longer hide in the rail yards because even every hobo and every rail worker knew what he looked like. The pressure became too much. Even his own family in Mexico saw his face on TV. And they realized the legacy he was building was one of blood. His own sister, Manuela, began negotiating with a Texas Ranger named Drew Carter. She told her brother, "It's over, Angel. You can't run from the girl in Kentucky." So, on July 13, 1999, nearly 2 years to the day after he attacked Holly, Resendez walked across a bridge from Mexico into Texas and surrendered. He thought he was the main character of this story. He thought he was the one who controlled the tracks. But he was caught because one woman refused to die in a ditch. He was caught because Holly Dunn decided her life was worth fighting for. Now, I told you this was a story about legacy, and here's why. I want to talk about what happened after the trial as we head towards the end of this episode. Resendez was sentenced to death and executed in 2006. In the eyes of the law, that was the end. But Holly knew better. She knew that there were thousands of other Hollys out there. People who had survived trauma but didn't know how to navigate the system. She used her voice. She didn't hide. She wrote a book. She went on speaking tours, and then she did something even bigger. She founded Holly's House. In my field of work, we call this victim advocacy. But guess what? Holly took it further. She created a space where children and adults who have been victims of sexual or physical violence can go to be heard, not just processed. At Holly's House, they just don't ask you what happened. They ask, how can we help you heal? She took the legacy of a serial killer, a legacy of fear and silence, and she replaced it with a legacy of empowerment. She built a house out of the very stones the world used to try and break her. Oh, here's my message for you. As we close out today's episode, I want you to think about the tracks in your own life. Maybe you're going through a season of waiting like Holly did. Maybe you feel like a ghost is following you, whether that's a past mistake, a trauma, or a fear that you can't quite name. Remember Holly Dunn. She was 20 years old, broken, and bleeding in a ditch in Kentucky. By all accounts of science and probability, she should have stayed there. But she crawled. Her legacy isn't that she was a victim. Her legacy is that she was the witness who stopped a monster. Her legacy is the lives she saves every day through her advocacy work. Your legacy line isn't determined by the person who hurt you. It's not determined by the bad hand you were dealt. It's determined by what you do when you get to the light. Holly once said, I don't want to be known as the girl who survived the railroad killer. I want to be known as the woman who helped others survive their own darkness. That, my friend, is a legacy worth living. If you or someone you know is struggling with trauma or needs support, remember there are places like Holly's House out there for you. You don't have to walk the tracks alone. If this story moved you, if it made you think differently about the system we live in, do me a favor and hit that like button. Follow the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to tell your story, drop us a line. Click the email below to inquire. Thank you for joining me today on this journey. I hope Holly's story gives you strength to keep crawling towards the light, no matter how dark the ditch might feel. I'll catch you on the next one.